The people had borders, but not the goods. It's very typical. How can you, when you start such a fantastic adventure, which is very unique in the world, a common Europe, it's a very unique, it's a fantastic adventure. How can you do it without huge problems, including democratic problems, when you start with trade and business? It's clear that you will have problems. Even in the United States of America, which is the ghost of capitalism, they made a constitution. And I remember something like 10 years ago, there were some activists in the United States, they went door to door to the citizens, asking them to sign a document. And they were thrown out like garbage, like communists, like horrors, and that was the Constitution of the United States of America. So they started with a constitution having some values, some very strong values. Of course, at one moment, the power game can change. But still, the Americans themselves could not imagine that they had these common rules. We, when we started the European Union, we had no common rules, we had no constitution. This is absurd. It is absurd to start with trade and industry. Trade and industry are very important. But I mean, first, you must, like in a football match, have the rules for the game. Otherwise, it's not possible. When you do that, of course, you are in the logic of the founding fathers. There are also founding mothers, more fathers than mothers. The founding fathers are doing that for your good, for the good of Europe, for the good of the citizens. And to do things for your own good without asking you what you think, it is not democratic whatsoever. Whatever the kind of imagination, of gentleness, of generosity you can have, it is not democratic. That's all. And we pay the price. We pay the price of that. Because we had to go through this hurdle of accepting the Constitution. Countries like Ireland, who was gaining a lot from the EU. Now they are collapsing because they went too rich too quickly. It was a bit artificial. But still they gained a lot from the EU. They were refusing the Constitution. I'm not pro this Constitution 100%. I think lots of things should have been differently phrased. But still, if we have common rules, we have common rules. And that's very important. And you had also countries like France that refused at one moment, like Holland, which is a very international country. They refused the Constitution. Now we have it. And immediately after, Merkel and Sarkozy want to change it already. So it's fantastic. So you see, we pay the price all the time. We also pay the price on a really strong democratic level, because you know probably that there's a commission, there is the Council of Ministers, and there is the Parliament. These are the three main pillars of the EU. Normally, the top level in the countries, it's the Parliament. The Parliament is making the law. The Parliament is just under the Constitution, telling the people how they should behave. And in our system, the Parliament was the weakest, was absolutely the weakest. That, again, is not democratic. Only through crisis, when this Parliament gains some power, little by little, they are gaining power. So everything is an enormous negotiation between these three levels. Knowing also that in the Council of Ministers, of course, the rich and powerful countries, they are trying to impose their views to the others. It's clear that when Greece is nearly bankrupt, and of course the Greek political establishment has been corrupt, and there has been a lot of wrongdoings, but when the Germans say we veto this loan to the Greeks, it is quite dramatic, because it means that one country is obliging the whole of Europe to change their own minds. So we've got a strong deficit in democracy. We also have this problem that not only it was started by commerce, trade and industry, but also, and that culture was not at all in it, not at all, not even mentioned. It's only 2 years ago that there is a program for culture itself. But also that the social dimension of Europe was always extremely weak, because some countries which are totally open for business, like England, were saying, don't touch it. If you want to have very low minimum salaries, we will have very low minimum salaries. And on the contrary, countries with a very high social blanket, like the Nordic countries, like Denmark, Sweden and so on, were saying, we don't want to reduce our social coverage. So you see, it was a big fight back to be able to find something. On another level, on the international scene, we are a giant for world economy, but we are a dwarf for the role we play in the world as a political power. So, all is not bad, of course. There are very good things about Europe. For instance, in ecology, Europe was the one which was helping Kyoto to exist. Without Europe, Kyoto would not have existed. And this is, as kind of sustainability for the planet, very crucial. We also have a kind of stability with the euro, which is much more than money. It's also a symbolic power, etc., etc. I think there are lots of things that are extremely positive in Europe. Also the co-management of decisions. I think this is a very important factor. Now, about culture. I was telling you that there were no program for culture. Of course, there were programs linked to economy. For instance, the programs for media, for new media and so on. There is a huge amount of money given to the new media and to cinema and so on, because these are the cultural industries. The second step, positive, that was taken is that the cultural dimension was taken into account for big programs, like the structural funds, for instance, the funds for employment, for inter-regional development and so on. The dimension of culture is taken into account now. So you are able to apply as a cultural operators on, for instance, development project with other countries in other regions. So there is a change in mentality. Europe is more and more recognizing culture, but it's a real permanent fight. Now, why am I talking about Europe? Because I think it is probably the main player now, as far as culture is concerned, in cultural cooperation in Europe. And why am I taking it as an example for cultural cooperation? It is because it's extremely complex. If you want to apply for an EU program on culture, you have to do a very heartbreaking and nerves-breaking experience. Because now, in the EU, you can get money for programs. And I think it's very important. The positive side, we must first talk about the positive side, is that it's been breaking lots of borders. Not only physical borders, but mental borders, nationalistic borders. Giving money to operators that want to collaborate, France with England, Spain with Portugal, Poland with Germany, or Poland with Ukraine. I mean, it's coming more and more in the possibilities. This is a very positive aspect of cultural cooperation that is fostered and that is financed by Europe.